When talking about addiction issues, addiction in the recovery field, stigma is very prevalent in a variety of ways. But before talking about the different types of stigma, we first have to identify what stigma actually is. Stigma is often defined as attitudes and beliefs that lead people to reject, avoid, or fear a certain group, a group that is perceived as different. So there is a type of public shunning and shaming involved with stigma. In the human services field, there are usually three major types of stigma identified. The first is public, and this relates to beliefs and attitudes the general public may hold. Examples of this can be found in the articles and video you reviewed. For example, one article described how people gave the impression of addiction being like having stage 4 cancer. Another article in the video reinforced that certain substance use, such as opioids, have resulted in a public sense of compassion and a need to offer treatment, while a different substance, crack, resulted in derogatory labels being used towards those struggling with the addiction and a desire to criminalize the use. The second is institutional, and this refers to organizational policies and/or negative attitudes and beliefs in agencies. An example of this would be an underlying expectation of an agency or medical center that those seeking services for addiction will usually drop out, or that these clients aren't entitled to the same rights and respect of those seeking services for other medical conditions. The last type is self, and this is when individuals struggling with addiction start to internalize the negative beliefs referenced above. Often, these can lead to shame, fear, anger, and a sense of hopelessness. It is important to note that there are many issues commonly connected with stigma. As the articles and video highlight, issues such as prejudice, discrimination, and ostracism are often embedded and related to stigma. In addition, various cultural factors such as ethnicity and gender and socioeconomic status often influence who is targeted. Within these three major types are specific forms of what we call addiction-related stigma. These still relate to the three main types described previously, but tend to address specific challenges and stigma related to addiction and recovery services. Addiction-related stigma of the public type includes stigma from the outside and stigma from the recovering community. Addiction-related stigma of the institutional type includes stigma from treatment providers, and addiction-related stigma of the self type includes stigma from within. I've included more information and descriptions of each of these in the next assignment. Lastly, when looking at stigma, it is important to look at solutions. In this area, there are many anti-stigma campaigns. Some of the campaigns that specifically target addiction-related stigma are Words Matter, Faces and Voices of Recovery, and Stamp Out Stigma. I've included more information and descriptions of these initiatives in the next assignment.